For those of you who weren't here at the beginning, I'm Jonna Donlund. I'm head of sustainability at Betsson. And now I'm going to talk to you about why no woman or man, for that matter, is an island. Does anybody know what this is? Hands up if you know what this is. Yay! Rod, tell us. Yes, it's a small island off the coast of Malta. When it comes to ESG, though, the time when this was an island in a certain sense, or a one-woman or one-man show, is definitely over.
Okay, so thank you, Jonna, and thank you to Betsson then for organizing this. It's a topic that I believe is going to become a lot more mainstream, and I need it to become a lot more front of mind. Essentially, when we're looking at ESG, if we look at this quote, companies that improve their environmental, social, and corporate governance do not just do good, they do well. Okay, all in does take up a phenomenal amount of time, and the important thing is that ESG is a journey. It's a journey for absolutely everyone, including ourselves then as KPMG, where we're on a journey and we're learning as we're going. But it's important then to be able to define clear goals and metrics. Sometimes being able to acquire or recognize those metrics, or those metrics that are material to your business, that takes time, okay? There's a lack of standardization, as we were saying before, and identifying the relevant metrics is also an exercise in itself. From a customer standpoint, over here, we had done a very quick study on US and UK gamblers, and we found that if we focus on a couple of the points, 49% of consumers factor ESG into deciding where to place their bets, but equally so, 60%, there should be percentage over there, of gaming customers know little or nothing about how gaming companies have implemented ESG.
And I think that the awareness is growing. If you had to ask me that question maybe 2 years ago, my answer would have been different, and I would say yes, there's a complete disregard to what ESG is all about. But the awareness is growing, also because of the fact that some of the smaller organizations that are not captured by CSRD are still indirectly being hit. So just a few weeks ago, we had one of our clients that actually sent us a questionnaire sent by their bank, asking about their CO2 emissions, about their labor conditions, etc. And the bank saying, listen, if you don't reply within 3 weeks of us sending you this questionnaire, you risk that we're going to close down your account.
So, Martin, just to turn to you on that subject, because you acquire businesses, you go and you do due diligence. There was a data point, again, it was out of the US even, that I think it was a KPMG report or something to that effect, 60-something% of M&A transactions with private companies fall apart because of failure of sustainability tests in due diligence. How has that impacted you, and how do you think about that when you're approaching an acquisition, especially with some of the exotic markets that we all work in regulated gaming?
I think that's a very important question, and again, it comes down to what part of the sustainability that is important. And the same way as you do due diligence on the personnel when you buy a company, on the financials, on tax, on legal, whatever it might be, you need to do it on ESG as well, and especially on responsible gaming. Because if you buy a business ending up with bad procedures in place, no control of AML, no control of responsible gaming, you might end up with a case where you have a customer database that you can no longer use, because our standards are something very different from what the company you acquire. And if they have not had that in place and the framework in place, that is something that you then need to kind of price in to what you pay for this company. And if you haven't done that exercise properly, it can be really costly for you.
I think on that point, it's great that the companies have more clarity on items and they can take a more powerful position to work on it together as well, instead of having very fragmented focus points of each company has their own analysis on this. And I want to ask you a point of view from the regulator. Do you think that the industry at this moment is doing enough to address it?
I think different licensees and different entities are on different journeys or different parts of their journey. We obviously see a lot of good being showcased from bigger entities, generally listed entities as well. What is really important to point out, again, and it ties back to what I've been saying already, is that we can't forget that the industry is already heavily regulated. So there's already a lot that is being done in terms of sustainability, maybe not in the sort of traditional sense or the ESG sense, but this is what the code, this is how the code bridges the gap really and truly. It's when we look at RG standards, AML obligations, there's already a lot that is in existence that is fostering sustainability within the industry.
If you look into detail, there are some things that really makes these standards stand out compared to the past. One of them is that it will directly hit more than 50,000 companies. But it will affect even more because even the small micro companies that are maybe not listed on a stock exchange and so on, they are often a partner or a supplier of a bigger company. And with this new reporting standard, you are required to collect data from your whole value chain. And it also will need to be audited. So your auditors will need to check and review your sustainability reporting as well as they already do with the financial reporting. And it also needs to be digitally tagged because all the sustainability reports will have to be uploaded to a single European data point because it's there where all the banks and investors will download the information to make their screening and analysis.
Let's start off with a question on why companies should care about sustainability and ESG. So just give me like one good reason. Why should they care, Vanessa?
For us at Play and Go, it's all about taking responsibility, being transparent, and ultimately every company has an impact on, you know, the people that we employ, the industry that we work in, the customers, and ultimately for us as a supplier, also the players.
Rachel, on that note, I mean, we talked about well, why it's a good idea to focus on sustainability. But in your experience then as a consultant for the KPMG, what would you say are the biggest challenges for companies today?
I think just the complexity. First of all, I want to start off with something. So often people, when they hear about ESG, they're a little bit afraid, you know, so we get that a lot. But then once you explain what ESG is, it's actually not rocket science, you know. There's a lot that people are doing already that falls under the umbrella on ESG, and maybe then it's about going to the next level. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. But it does tend to get then a little bit complex. So with the CSRD, for example, just reading through the materials and the standards that have been produced and 1,200 data points that we see. So there are challenges there. You need to find time. You need to have resources. You might need to invest in people or in technology. But it might also be a good idea to network with your peers to try to get the information that you need or get a trusted partner to help you along the way. So there are challenges, but there are also ways around these challenges. So and we're finding companies like Betsson and others and yourselves that are, you know, finding a way around these challenges and perhaps also turning them into opportunities as well.
So when our customers play on our brands, we calculate how much emissions that cause, and then we climate compensate for that. But Rachel, you're the climate expert, actually. Would you like to comment on how companies could approach this tricky subject of the climate side?
Yeah, and I often hear within the gaming world, but what do I have to do with climate? Like, we don't release any emissions, we don't manufacture, we don't have a power station, but actually you do indirectly from your electricity consumption, from your own buildings, but also from the demand that you generate for electricity, that it's potentially powered by fossil fuels through data centers, through the electricity that your customers use. So this is a very relevant topic even in the online gaming space. And as with everything, you can only act on what you measure, right? So that's the first thing. As Lisbeth mentioned, you account for your carbon footprint. your Scope 1, which is your own direct emissions. These are typically quite low. Your Scope 2, which is then your emissions from electricity consumption, and then your Scope 3, which is your value chain emissions, which as we were discussing earlier this week, can be quite interesting to get data from your suppliers as well. And then once you've identified where the biggest impacts are, you can decide on what actions to take. We've done that assessment ourselves, even for KPMG, and have a little bit of a roadmap. Our main emissions, much like yourselves, would be in the Scope 2 and Scope 3.
For inspiration, even though you might not start with reporting immediately, but from there you can also, gain some insights and get some inspiration for where to start.
And you, Lisbeth, I know you've changed jobs a few times. So
Yeah.
you have started in quite a few companies.
Setting everything up.
Setting it
that's
up.
my,
This is the setting up expert. Yes.
Yeah, and in the process of setting that up, I think right at the start, it's so important that you look at your ESG governance. Like, how are the lines? Who is involved in decision making? Get management on board, creating like an ESG committee, and get together as the responsible person. Since that's the topic of ESG sits everywhere. It's very interdisciplinary. So you need the right people to check with on a regular basis. And you still need to have enough decision-making power not to be somewhere in the middle every time. So it's definitely working close with the CFO on the numbers, working with the CEO on the strategy, and then on your different departments for your material topics. And then you can dive deeper into that materiality analysis, because each of these departments have their own expert. Like, I'm not an expert on RG. I learned a lot and I know a lot about it, but I still need to talk to my RG team and our RG managers who need to give me the input, how we can improve, how can we do better interactions, how can we put numbers on interaction and RG, and then have that in the report. So all of that is very useful. Start with mapping your internal organization, and then come up with a long list of topics that you will make smaller, fit in the ESRS. There's of the ESG framework that the EU is now that comes into force. There's 10 topics they want to report. 5 are under environment, 4 under social, and 1 under governance. And the one under social that's focused on consumers and end users, that's going to be probably really big for our industry, because it's how can we offer responsible products, how can it be responsibly consumed. So yeah, it's like seeing where those things fit, and then putting the KPIs on it with your teams, and then you can start more on the reporting process. And once we get where we can analyze from year to year and maybe add a few more disclosures and KPIs every year, that's a really good point.
Too easy. This is not easy, but I do like to meddle and get involved and be all over the organization. That's something that I really enjoy, and also it irritates me a little bit that gaming is viewed in a sort of unfavorable light, because it's an form of entertainment that has been around since thousands and thousands of years ago, and there's so much good that's going on, and I really want to be part of pushing that really, and showcasing some of the work that is actually done within the industry when it comes to processes. We heard, I think it was at the investor and the CFO panel, who talked about that banks are actually impressed by our due diligence and by our KYC and onboarding process. Well, we don't hear a lot about that. So I think ESG is a good opportunity for the industry to showcase the work that is being done. Okay, do we have any questions from the audience? So these are the experts. Take the opportunity to ask them.